Well, good evening. It's August the 23rd, Thursday evening. Been a funny day today. Lots of showers which have prevented us doing lots of the things that we were planning on doing. Been unable to continue our spray program. There's various issues we're having this year. I think we're all faced with powdery mildew is one thing, and we're having a bit of a problem with thrip at the moment because we're surrounded by wheat fields. So yeah, it's been a tricky day. Anyway, I just thought I'd have a quick walk through our trial beds with you and tell you what's going on. There's not an awful lot of colour on these yet, but I thought it might be interesting to see the stage we're at. Each year we are honoured to be asked by a lot of breeders across the country, some well known, some not so well known maybe yet, asked to try their varieties and give them a run on our plots to see how they do. The potential a few years down the line may well be that we will introduce those into the catalogue on their behalf. This year we're approaching around about 90 varieties or so. One or two from America, but most from the UK. What we've tried to do this year is make sure we have quite a number of them on the cover, particularly the large flowers from like medium upwards to large and giant decks. So you'll have seen one or two of these about. We've got a few varieties from John Sharp. This one's Eastwood How's At, and then we've got Eastwood Kudos, and they'll say we're late on flowering. We'll know how they're going to do elsewhere, but it's just to see how they perform with us. This is Grace Wood, which was a silver medalist at the Leeds trials last year from Derek Cave. It's a good strong plant, just starting to bud now, or break bud I should say. And people will have to try it, send us a variety just for us to try, just to add to our range and see what we think anyway. So Happy Champagne, it's on release, but was somebody was kind enough to send me a couple of plants of this just to give a go. Then Akazi, not really a new one, but not all of these are new that we trial. There's sometimes just varieties that we might think or warrant a place in our catalogue, but we've got to grow them. We might grow them one season, we might grow them 2 seasons. They might be introduced, they might end up being destined for unfortunately, the compost heap. But it's just seeing how they get on with us. And also lucky enough to have a few growers across the country who are kind enough to allocate a bit of space on their plot to help support some of these varieties and give them a grow as well. And then I can get feedback to see how they're performing in various parts of the country. So it's introducing a new variety can be quite a long process the way we do it, and that's the way we've been doing it since 1921. Get a variety, trial it on our plot, and we have an obligation to the breeder as well to make sure that we do the best we can for it. This one here in front of us, just go back a few steps, is Normandy Delight. Which is John Willett's new fimbriated seedling. Got 20 of these planted out, and wow, look at the buds, the power of the plants here. I'm really pleased with how this is doing. On the back row there we have a few smaller miniatures which could potentially be good show varieties. I thought, well, we've got a net spare under cover, so we have about 12 varieties planted there. Rycroft Real Deal, which was Phil Goldsmark's 2012, I think it was, or 2011, might have been, was it Crowley Cup winner at the trial, at the NDS at Shepton Mallet. He was, managed to get a few cuttings off a tuber Phil was kindly allowed us to grow. On this net here we've got some of the medium decks and medium cactus at the far end, but if I just walk through and just quickly, so Ernie Corkwell, bless him, we've got a couple of his varieties that were Asquith Josephine had been released, and Asquith Edna was in the trials. That's a bicolour variety. I say not really an awful lot to see in colour wise at the moment, but what I wanted to really get across was just what we try and do to make sure that these plants are given a chance to show to their best and then help assess their potential. And I say 2 or 3 years down the line they might actually make it into the catalogue. Edna C we had a few years ago, Jeff Gardner was kind enough to send us a few plants to give us a go. As Jacob's Desire, a medium deck orange and yellow blend. One that we actually have introduced this year, bred by Roger Day, is Mary Margaret Rowe. I wish these had been a little bit further on for me because I would love to have a big arrangement of these at Harrogate, but we've just going to be a few days behind, I think. We've got Rycroft Gladiator, another of Phil Godsmark's, which was standing really tall for us last year. This year plants seem a bit more controllable. It's a medium, but I think has the potential to be probably a large. It's just whether the buds need forcing back just to get the angle right on those, whether that'll develop naturally. They did do okay like last year, but we'll see. 1 year's not enough to see variety. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3. This is an interesting one from America, a variety called AC Shiitake, medium semi-cactus, an orange, grows about 5 foot. We'd only had 2 plants of this flowered inside last year, so we're going to see how it does on a bigger planting this year. Spenethorn Georgia May, it's Eric's Booths. You know, that looks very, very promising with the way the buds are standing at the moment. Last year it didn't do particularly well for us. This year looking a lot better, but time will tell when these flowers opening. You know, about another 12-15 days on those, we'll be able to get a much better idea of its potential. And then White Hill Crest Candy, which was a sport that one of our customers had. He's in Selkirk, and it was on Fal's Candy. And the flowers are pure white, not a taste of blush in it, but you'll have to excuse it because I mentioned we had a lot of thrip damage. You can probably see in there, despite spraying it keeps coming back. We're just having the job fitting everything in. As many of you know, I'm quite partial to Fims, so this is a bed of me Fims coming on. Really pleased with how this one's looking. This is Normandy Frills. Moved on a plot now, so we're, this is a row of giant and large deck cactus. We've got Tom East at the end and Spenethorn Shirley. Jubilee Boy, which was I think one of Gabby Hayes'. I like the colour when I saw this. We'll see how it does. And then we have Steve Megos from America. Not very attracted to that bud. And the same plants, got 2 doing exactly the same thing, so I'll be looking at that very, very closely and probably turfing that one out. A few giant decks from Tony Kingdom. That's Sherwell Peach, and then we have much lower Sherwell Heather, Sherwell Gemma, and Sherwell Allen here. And then running back along, some of these are actually old varieties that I fancied giving another go. I remember them as a kid, these ones. So there's a bud of Kids Climax opening out. I was interested in giving this one a go, which is Lula Patty. Unusual foliage colour on this one. Not colour, shape rather. Very, very cut, ferny leaves on it. Late flower and haven't secured a bud yet, so I'll have to watch that one. And then we have some Lemon Top, and then Almonds Climax. sorry, whizzing past there. Probably getting a bit carried away with how much I've been waffling on there, so this video is getting longer than I anticipated. This little area of the field, 5 nets, 500, no, it's actually 600 plants, are trial varieties of the small miniature cactus and balls, decks and poms. For the 3rd year we'll have been planting out some of the Jasudi varieties, or is it the 4th year? Lose track in time now as to what they were planted over the other side beyond where the mast is. The very first year we had them, and it's just careful assessing of the varieties constantly, just seeing how they're doing, how they're performing. You know, one season doesn't necessarily tell you a true story, and with no real chance of getting true feedback of this, because Peter was the only one that had grown these, it is taking a little bit longer to assess these, whereas some other varieties breeders might have actually asked colleagues in various parts of the country to grow them for them as well. So it's nice to see a little bit of colour starting on all of these now. So another week will make a big difference. Anyway, I think like 12 minutes is just about enough, probably too much, so I'm just going to walk down and I will try and keep everybody updated as to what's what. But looking after these, I say there's whole blocks of different varieties here, and I say it's a real honour to be asked to, or entrusted with the stock, if you like, I suppose, to see what we can do with them. But it's hard work at the same time, time consuming, especially if a fair few of these end up not actually making the grade to what we're looking for. Being the nicest part of the day at the minute, because the sun's just starting to shine.